interview. And so your last name is pronounced Nery, correct?
That's right, Nery.
Like Nery?
Yeah.
How do you say it?
Everybody always pronounces it different. There's Nery, there's Nery.
How do you say it though?
I say Nery.
Nery. Oh, interesting. Huh. Well, we might not be able to do this interview. No, I'm kidding. Nery. Interesting. But it has an E. It's Nery? Nery or Nery? That's interesting.
So I'm from Brazil.
Ethnicity?
So I'm from Brazil. We pronounce it Nery.
Oh my gosh. A third pronunciation.
Yeah.
Nery.
Pronounce it Nery.
Nery?
Well, back in elementary school, some people used to say Nery also.
You know what we're gonna do? We're gonna do just like in school where they say Daniel N. No. All right, let's start this show. Let's have some fun. Hey, guys, welcome to it. It is the Ace Micheals Show. I missed you so much. It's been a while since we talked. We're in our new studio now. You notice we have new studio stuff. Anyway, if you ever want to be on the show, you're welcome to do so. All you have to do is contact us and say, hey, I want to be on a show. And then we can schedule you. That way you can come on the show, speak your mind, voice your opinions, suggestions, convictions, beliefs. I always say, if you've got it on your chest, come be a guest. That's not really, I don't always say it, but sometimes I say it on the show. Anyway, today our guest is a fabulous, fabulous artist, entrepreneur, creative individual. These are the people I love to interview the most. Welcome to the show. Daniel Nery is on the show. Daniel, welcome to the Ace Micheals Show.
Thank you. Great to be here.
So the one thing that's going on in our country right now is that a lot of people are taking their creative vision and they're turning it into a business for themselves. Like you see more people producing music from home and more people giving lessons and more people doing things that they were doing, you know, a little bit before, but they had a regular steady job and now they're doing this as their income, right? But you are a little bit different than that because you've been doing this for a while. You've been self-sustaining yourself with your creative. So tell us a little bit about your story and how you managed to turn this into a lifestyle for yourself where you're getting to do what you love and make money doing what you love.
Oh boy, it's ongoing, you know, and so I come from a background of doctors. Everybody in my family is a doctor. Naturally, I pursued that route also. And 3 years into it, I burned out, got fed up, you know, and I realized, you know what, this is not for me. So, yeah, without much of a plan, you know, I just went into the world of business, started reading everything about entrepreneurship, about business. And I had a product idea that didn't really pan out very well, but one thing led to another. And eventually, I was working with a marketing company, and while going to a meeting in the lobby of the WeWork building, that's where the office was at. In the lobby, I see this guy on his laptop just making beats on his computer, and I've always had music in my heart, you know. But because of the path that I had chosen, you know, we focused so much on studying, get a job. And unconsciously, you start thinking that, okay, things that are within the realm of arts, you know, that you shouldn't pursue that. Those should just be hobbies, you know? So anyways, I saw that individual and I'm thinking like, oh, you know, like, like get a real job, you know? And boy, you know, like, I misjudged him. You know, I entered the meeting and it turns out that he was there visiting one of my business partners at the time. And he saw that we were struggling with a couple things here and there. So he came in, gave some tips. And it turns out that the guy has already built like a number of other businesses. And anyways, we got along great. He was there for 2 weeks. And afterwards, it turns out that he's been in the music industry for 15, 20 years. Yeah, as a producer. So then after he, about 2 months later, he gave me a call saying like, hey, you know, I'm building something from the ground up. There's been a change in the music industry and I've thought of a solution and I want you on board for it. And yeah, I've been in the music industry since 2017. And so far it's been the sustaining part is the hustling part. That's where you know, driving Uber and buying and selling and things like that come in. But everything is geared towards, you know, building up this company that we call a soul agency. So we call it a meta label because we're selling record label services without the record label itself.
So
And
Daniel, you literally went from what they would consider a made situation. Like, I mean, your family comes from the medical industry, so surely you could have gotten some work. I mean, with somebody. Somebody would have hooked you up with some kind of gig. But you went and ventured out on your own onto something that it sounds like it was challenging. Were you afraid? Like, did fear play a factor in this
oh,
decision for you?
completely, you know, so it's because you grow up, you know, sure, nobody's telling you this is what you got to do, but nonetheless, you know, when you're immature, young age, high school kid, college kid, you grow up with that impression that, oh, I got to do this. You know, you think people have these expectations of you, you know? So even though nobody ever said, you got to be a doctor, I still felt pressured into it, but it was all in my head. It was all perceived. And like 3 years into it, deciding, you know what, like I'm $150,000 in debt. I can't do this for the rest of my life. like, like if I stick to this, I'm gonna be stuck doing this for the rest of my life.
Right.
You know, and
Plus America.
yeah, so
Wow.
it's like, and that's the conclusion I came to is, you know, every doctor who I worked with, not to say that all doctors are like this, but all the ones that I worked with, at least, they were all burned out. And, you know, I was constantly looking at the clock, saying, you know, when my shift would end, when I would get to go home. And I noticed that these doctors who were burned out, they all had the same kind of dark humor, being like, hey, get out while you can. Why did I do this? Oh, it's fun.
This is
And
a terrible endorsement for the medical industry, by the way. This is not.
there's some great doctors out there. Yeah, my parents, they're great doctors. But my recommendation is only do it if you absolutely, absolutely, absolutely love it. Because it is pure sacrifice. You know, it's, if somebody finds a doctor who has a perfectly balanced lifestyle, like those are rare. Those are so few and far in between because I don't think I'd be able to be one of those. I'd be one of those who, you know, is probably overworked and every other facet of life is, you know, struggling to be well maintained.
So Daniel, tell us a little bit about the process, though. So, like, had you done music before, even a little bit, like made some beats in your basement or something, or did you completely start this career, as they say, from scratch?
So up until that point, my only experience had been playing in church um, back in high school, and this is where the song that I put out recently comes in. Back in high school, I bought a guitar. I have it right here, actually.
Uh-oh, he's breaking out the guitar. We have bonded. We have male bonded. He's breaking out the guitar, guys. We're going there. Look at this dude. Oh, snappy, snappy. Can you play that?
I do, but it needs batteries, though. That's
I was under the impression that nobody could play those, that they were just looking good on stage. Can you actually stand there and play that? That's very cool. Very
yeah. So that's a really primitive one. You know, there are better ones now.
And
Yeah.
all that says about you is that at some point you had big hair. That's or a mullet. One or the other, or
I
both.
had more hair than this, yeah. I blame this on med school. All that, because of that, I lost.
Yeah, I bet. So, okay, so Daniel leaves medical school. Needless to say, this breaks the heart of many resident nurses and family members. And he goes out and he says, I'm going to do the one industry that more people have failed in historically than any other industry in the world, actually.
No,
And I'm going to do this.
it wasn't like that. It wasn't like that. So it's like I leave medical school. And up until then, I'm still under the conviction that don't do music. Don't do music. Music is for dreamers. Music is for, you know, starving artists. Don't do it. You know, so, but again, I always had in my heart, you know, I bought the little guitar back in high school. I write a song that went viral among my classmates.
Nice.
And,
Nice.
you know, so it's always like something that's on the back of my mind, something that I want to do, but I don't do it. on all the mission trips that I participated in. At the time, YouTube was blocking the audio that I would make for the vlogs. I was like, okay, I might as well make my own songs. So that's how I started with the whole beat making. But again, it's never taking it serious, never truly chasing it, because I always think that this is a hobby. You can't make a living off of this.
Right.
Even in med school, I was making some songs about classmates on, after an exam when your brain is toast. I would make a song about a classmate, poking fun at the peculiarities and jokes with the classes. So it's just my thing. But again, always treating it as a hobby, always suppressing that drive, that desire to, pursue music. So what happened after med school? After med school, I'm still in that zone of don't do music, do anything else but not music, So, I started reading the business books, got involved with real estate, with investment, with cryptocurrency, and, just trying a number of things, learning as I go, each thing. And that's what eventually led me to work alongside an investor in his marketing company, where I just happened to be in the same room as a legit music producer who's been rocking the game for like 15 years.
And sometimes that start is all an individual needs. Like if you get the right start and you get the right support, you can actually do anything.
That's exactly what it is. You got to be surrounded by people who have done what you want to do, people who are good at what you want to do. Because this is what I'm realizing, is that people with good intentions, loved ones with good intentions, we naturally prescribe, I'm using medical terminology, like we naturally suggest to you, the suggestions we make are things that we're familiar with, things that we have had a positive experience with, things that worked out for us. And then everything that is unknown to us, that we're not familiar with, that we only know based off of he said, she says, out of love, we discourage people from pursuing that.
Absolutely.
Because like you don't know what's there, you don't want the kids to fall into a hole, But it's like what I'm realizing is the right thing to do, rather than treating the unknown with fear, you should encourage the person to go out and explore it. Sure, be mature about it. Set a time limit. If this doesn't work in 3 years, whatever. That was just 3 years of my life. But I forgot what I was going to say.
That's okay. It's going to come back to you. Now, I want to focus on your faith for a second, because I know you said something about church. And to me, I like to ask this question of people. When you think of the success that you've had thus far, do you think that it's mostly based on your faith and spirituality, or have you just been lucky? Would you say that it's one of those things where some people got it, some people don't? You know what I'm saying? Like, what would you attribute the main source of your success to? Is it your faith? Is it luck? Is it fortune? Is it accident?
So it's definitely not a coincidence that I became friends with this producer who brought me into the music industry. I also do not think it's a coincidence that, sorry, doorbell, let me put this on mute. Distractions, right? We were talking about it earlier.
I know, no worries.
So I also don't think it's a coincidence that I ended up in medical school, and that I left, and that I stumbled into the music industry right during this point where the industry is changing, to make it more accessible to independent artists. So I think it's God's mercy. That's really what it is. That's really what I attribute to it. So I'm somebody, I take my faith pretty serious. And that's not to say that, my walk with God is smooth sailing. I catch myself arguing with him more times than not, but so far, the story that I see myself relating to the most is that of Joseph in Egypt, where it's like his brothers sold him to slavery. And then it's like, he ends up at this guy's house, being his slave. And then he works his way up. And then, you know, he gets wrongfully accused of a scandal, then boof, you know, he loses everything again, ends up in prison. But then he's the best in prison, you know, so he starts ranking up. He helps out these guys with his dreams. They're like, yeah, don't worry, we'll get you out of here. But then they completely forget about him, so he's stuck in there for another period of time. Then boom, you know, all of a sudden he's the Pharaoh's right-hand man. So my philosophy so far, and this is actually one of the songs that I want to put out in the future, is my philosophy has been like everything I do it fast and excellent. You know, I try to be transparent and thorough with everything I do. Because what I'm realizing is that with med school, with real estate, with everything, the status quo, everywhere you go, the status quo is sloppiness. Right now, I'm dealing with it right now, trying to navigate the whole music industry. I even have it right here open on, you know, my multiple monitors. Oh, you can't see it because I have a green screen on. But I have it open on multiple monitors, windows of, you know, trying to make sense of music publishing in other countries. Why? Because this world is such a freaking mess, you know? And it's because like everybody with different standards, different viewpoints, different definitions, everybody tries to implement something. And in the end, it's just a big mess. There's the same exact thing in med school where the upperclassmen, you know, they would share their resources with, you know, with the people coming in. But everything was muddled with the resources from the previous classes. So there's just so much redundancy and it's so hard to find, you know, a study guide. And anyways, what I'm realizing that my gift has been, and this is where I see it as, you know, it's a combination between God's doing it and it's genetic, you know, it's a number of factors. But what God gifted me with is my mind is very compartmentalized. I'm good at organizing and creating, you know, a system and process where it makes sense to everybody.
Sure.
You know, we're easy to navigate. And that's what right now our business is specializing in. We're trying to make navigating the music industry easy for everybody. And I'm using it on myself because I'm a musician too.
Right.
And we're constantly like trying to refine it, being like, how can we make this easier for people? And anyways, the question you asked was, you know, what do I attribute my success? My success is getting there. Success is a daily thing though. Success is a daily thing. And I think it's, yes, God's mercy, because there's some doors that he opens himself. You can't plan for it. But at the same time, you got to put yourself out there so that when that opportunity comes, you're ready to grab it. And a way of putting yourself out there is in everything you do, you do it with high standards. Because yes, you're going to be taken advantage of. There's snakes everywhere. You know, and my way of dealing with snakes is I only give people one chance to do me dirty maliciously. And I feel that if they're dishonest with the little things, they're going to be dishonest with the big things. So don't even give them that chance. You know, and in navigating the world like this, eventually you attract the right kind of attention, you know, the right person. You come across somebody who is not going to do you dirty. You know, that's the case with the team that I have right now. I love my business partners right now. And every day is exciting. We got some big things coming up with Salt Agency.
I get time for two more questions. And the first one I want to ask you is, as an artist, do you separate your artist life from your real life? For example, if you read a news article and you say, gosh, you know, I feel a certain way about that, is there part of you that says, but that doesn't belong in my music? Or does everything go in your music regardless?
I think everything goes into music. Because that's, I think the beautiful thing about experiences, sure, everybody has different experiences, but our feelings are more or less the same, you know? So like for example, I can't say that I ever experienced what the, you know, what the African American community is going through, you know, with the Black Lives Matter, and like that sucks. I'm sorry. It's like I can't say I feel your pain, but there have been instances where I was denied justice, where I did the right thing, and in the end I got punished for it, so it's like, sure, I'm not feeling the intensity of what what some people have gone through, what the Jews and the Holocaust have been through. I can't say that I've been through that.
Sure.
To that degree, but that sentiment, I think everybody has felt every range of feeling that's out there, every category of emotion that's out there. Mm-hmm. So in that sense, I think that I think that it's worth singing about whatever it is you're going through, because even if somebody didn't go through that, they're going to relate to it somehow.
I agree. Yeah. And so I got time for this. Is my last one, and we're going to run out of time. We always run out of time on the show. This one sounds like a simple question, but think about it before you answer. I want to ask you, Daniel, what is your favorite song that you've created? Your favorite song, and why?
They're two faith songs, and again, I mentioned earlier, there are two songs, so it's constantly alternating. And I mentioned earlier that, I take my faith really serious, even though I fight with God a lot. And these are the songs that keep me grounded, because in the end, life is hard for everybody. Everybody has questions. We all have doubts. Why do bad things happen with good people? That's the most common thing. Like in the end, every conflict that we have, it boils down to two questions. Is either God is being mean or God is not being fair. It's one of those two, challenging either his mercy or his justice. And anyways, we're not going to have all the answers out there, and that's what I think that's extraordinary about my faith, is that the people who are considered righteous, it's not the well-behaved people, it's the people who believe even when there is no evidence, even when, and the beautiful part about, just giving your feelings to God is that he does this miracle where he just transforms your heart and he helps you believe, because let's face it, it's not realistic to believe in, some of the things out there. So it's like, in the end, that's what faith is. It's believing even when the evidence is, even when everything inside you says this is fake, this is phony, God's being mean, he's a sham. So there's the song that I have to sing to myself constantly. It's a song called My Treasure, which I want to put out on my first album. That's going to be my passion project. But it's a song that I wrote shortly after leaving med school, where I got involved with something that in the end ended up backfiring on me, betrayals, some heartache. And, that's when I felt like God speaking to me, being like, hey, whatever it is you're going through, he's the ultimate treasure that we have, it's like, whether you're rich, whether you're poor, whether you're having success, or you're a total failure, regardless of your circumstances, whether you know all the secrets in the world or you don't, or you're lost and confused and directionless, as I was feeling, in the end, it's possible to have peace in spite of your circumstances, because I believe Jesus is the ultimate treasure. And yeah, and it's just like, it's when you make that confession, being like, I want to treasure you, I want to treasure you regardless of what I'm going through, whether good or bad or whatever. That doesn't matter, because you're the only source of joy that I have in this world. And it's when I make that confession that all of a sudden, it's sort of like the Matrix, that scene in the Matrix when Neo, all of a sudden, he can see everything for what it is. It's just code, so it's like, if a bullet flies through him, it doesn't faze him because it's just code, it's like nothing hurts anymore. So in that sense, it's like all of a sudden, it's like this, whatever problem it is that I'm experiencing, you just see it for what it is, and you're like, in the grand scheme of things, this doesn't matter at all. It's like, ooh, I just lost $500. So what? Ooh, this person just betrayed me. Poor her, she's the one who's her behaviors, her experiences led her to act this way. I don't need to be the victim of any circumstance, because I have the only thing that matters in this life, which is, my intimacy with God, and he's taking care of me. And he says that all things work for the good of those who love him. So it's like, you know what, bring it on, But again, easier said than done. You need that reminder because, oh man, there's some days where it just feels like a Donald Duck episode where everything just feels almost as if like the furniture is conspiring against you. It's like everything's backfiring. and, and that's when you just need to like completely surrender, being like, man, I have no control of, the only thing I have control over is my attitude. And
amen. That's the truth. That is the truth. That's it right there in a nutshell. I couldn't even close the show on a stronger note than that if I was giving them out gold flavored cookies. As they say, your test will fine tune your testimony. And I agree with that. And I'm very thankful for you today, Daniel. So how do we stalk you on social media? If we want to follow you, we want to like sleep in the bushes, like what do we need to do next?
All right, it's going to be easy. Everything. I was able to, the hardest part of setting up social media is choosing a username that hasn't been taken yet. But fortunately, I was able to claim Daniel Nery Music on everything.
Oh, wow. That is very fortunate. Daniel Nery Music on everything. And I mean everything, y'all. Put it on everything. Daniel, thank you for being a guest on the show today. I really appreciated the conversation. I hope you'll come back and do my show in the future. We'll talk about stuff like pedophilia and pandemic and all sorts of positive.
Oh, man. Yeah, I have a lot to say about everything, yeah.
And that's what's up. Hey guys, it's been the Ace Michael Show. My guest today, Daniel Nery. Check him out on his websites. Make sure when the music comes out that you add him to your playlist. And don't just be one of those supporters. Be that supporter that gives a little money too, because that helps artists do their thing always. And you know what I say at the end of every show? I still mean it. Live the life you love. Love the life you live. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, Daniel. So you survived that one. That's